Hey there, Shrine Runners. I'm Araxis Denacia, your revolutionary bartender, and tonight we're going to be playing some more of the Great Ace Attorney. Hey there, Kuro. Hey, Kitty. Hey, Marshall. Welcome, welcome. Hey, Senpai. Already starting with the cat? No problem. I'll go over and pat her right now for you. She's just on the bed, okay? Give me a second. Hey, Sarah. Welcome, welcome. Just patting the cat. Give me a second. Hello, Jeannie. There you go. Alright. The cat has been pat. Alright. How's everyone been, by the way? I've been pretty good. Just finished having some seafood risotto, which was quite nice. I just had a little bit because I had a big lunch, but it was good. I got more for leftovers. Alright. Wishing you'd remembered Wind of the Crown and voted the prior to... Oh, it's okay. Only the first... there wasn't a vote in the second episode. Because it was originally intended to comprise the entire sort of Dragon Saga. So there was no vote for that one. Just for the first one. Oh, no. Hopefully, your home internet gets fixed up today, Marshall. That sounds really rough. And Kuro, always with the multi-streaming. I always see you in several channels at once. Honestly, props to you. Props to anyone who's able to multi-stream and pay attention to things at the same time. And hey, even if you're just sort of like lurking in a bunch of them, that's fine as well. It shows support to the streamer. Okay. Now, where were we last time on the Great Ace Attorney? I did not tell chat what I was voting for. I deliberately didn't tell who I was voting for because I don't want that to influence people's thoughts. I would be happy to tell people next time we play the game, probably. But otherwise, I don't like to sort of influence people's votes. I don't want them to sort of... Yeah, I know that you voted, so I'm fine with sort of sharing that with you. Okay. I think... Yeah, get your alcohol, no problem. You're gonna need that for this. If each stream is a different universe, and Kuro's a universe hopper. It's a previous game, Wind of the Crown. There was a vote at the end of that, and I invited people who followed along to vote on that as well, because that affects the storyline of the game going forward. So, let's get into the game. Don't donkey vote. Okay. Now, as always, do let me know if there are any issues. And we're going to continue with the investigation of this cabin. Yeah, see you later, Senpai. I know that you're not really into this one. Okay. Thanks for the head pats. Excuse me, Mr. Loyal. Oh no, Marshall. I'm sorry, but get ready for some silly sort of Russian accents because we're on like a Russian ship with people with the name like Biff, like over here. This guy's a Russian fellow and he's named Biff Stroganoff. Which is obviously not a Russian name, it just sort of looks a little bit Russian if you glance at it. It's actually an English pun, Beef Stroganoff. And Nikolina Pavlova. Yeah, Herlock Sholmes. Excuse me, Mr. Loylot. Yes, what? Wow, she's fast. Captain would like to speak with you. You must come to Captain's quarters at once. Please. All right, I will come now. Nikolina is almost Russian. What? You must leave now. Make the R more pronounced. I'll try. They're not similar to the Layton games. If you have played Phoenix Wright versus Professor Layton, it would be like the legal scenes in that, I guess. But otherwise, I would compare it more to a point-and-click adventure game, almost. That's how I would sort of compare it to. I sort of click on the things, try to sort of find clues, and that will sort of lead you to the next events, and you'll have a big sort of legal battle in the end. You'll see how it works. Oh no, it's fine. Don't mind us. Yes, please, don't worry yourself, Mr. Roylott. Get out! The passenger said out! Or you want me to throw you out? Looks like we'll have to leave investigating this cabin until later. What a pity. Yeah, we didn't get to investigate this cabin. Rolled but short. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm gonna be good at doing accents. And so, we lost our chance. Having still not managed to investigate Miss Pavlova's cabin, we were unceremoniously chased out. That is to say, we were quite literally picked up and thrown into the passageway outside. I was right at the part for that, incidentally. Oh well. Yep, so we'll save our progress there, I guess. Oh, investigation part 2. We're going to continue investigating, apparently. 9th of January, SS Burrier, first class cabin passageway. I wish we hadn't been thrown out like that. I wish we managed to find some clue as to what that speckled band might be. We didn't manage to investigate at all. And I imagine that we won't be able to for a while longer. Never get past that sailor guarding the door. He's clearly glaring at us as if to say, don't even think about it. Yeah, but isn't, I thought Poland was the home of vodka, wasn't it? Oh, wait a minute. What is it? Well, what happened to our great detective friend? Where did he go? Oh, yes! He's completely disappeared. When did he do that? True that, kitty. He slipped away as quietly as the wind, but not before ensuring that these were securely back on my wrists. Alright. Yeah, so let's, okay, first class cabin number 1. International Slav thing to unify all. Yep, that's our cabin. Not our cabin. Kazama-sama's. Sorry? You're a comedy. Right, we, wonder if Inspector Hosonaga has managed to uncover any new clues. Hey Prim, welcome. This is Araxis. Alright, so probably game wants us to talk to Hosonaga. Is there anything else around here? We could... Are we allowed to go this way now? Now that the guards moved? That door leads to the second class area. It's locked. I can't open it. No, well, that stands to reason. no one wants to let the murderer escape. Gosh. She gave me a very stern look when she said that. Okay. Let's see what old beef boy here wants to say to us. Really wish we'd had a chance to look around in Miss Pavlova's cabin. What? Why you look like that? You want something? Hmm? Maybe you want me to throw you out again, hmm? To alcohol! The cause and solution to all life's problems. Looks like he has blush marks. A little bit. Oh, no, definitely not that. They're manly marks from fist fighting. Yeah, the current setting for this is... I think it was either early 20th century or late 19th century. So Meiji Japan. Where they're sort of trying to sort of modernize. Red cheeks from drinking. Next time I have to throw you out, I show you where lobsters spend winter. Understand? Understand. Oh, apparently Automod doesn't like swearing in foreign languages. We'll allow that. The bliat. Maybe I should steer clear of him until he's forgotten my face. I don't think he'll ever forget your face, Naruhodo-san. Alright. Let's go speak with the inspector and see if he's found out anything. Yeah, can't go in there. Let's head back into the cabin. Have a lot of funny sounding profanities. 9th of January, SS Burlia, first class cabin, number 1. Oh, speaking of, over here. This one says that it says wardrobe in Russian. I was curious if that's the case, and if so, if there's any sort of double meaning there. It's claiming that it says wardrobe. That's right. Okay then. But obviously this wasn't written by this guy, because this guy's a Japanese native rather than a Russian native. No double meaning as far as you know. Alright then, well maybe we'll find out more later on. Because I really doubt he would have written wardrobe there. No, Ara, if you flip the text it won't say Leon fucking Danganronpa. It looks like they're still investigating in here. Yes. On that subject, I wonder if Inspector Hosonaga is unscathed. What do you mean unscathed? Surely you haven't forgotten, have you, Naruhodo-san? Don't you remember what he said about allowing you out of this cabin to investigate? He was going to talk to the captain about it. He said he'd lay his life on the line for you. Leave to professional Russian. Professional Russian, duh. Oh, yes. But I'm sure he was exaggerating. Let's see what he has to say for himself. Might have some new information for us, you never know. Alright. So is there... Alright, so there's the inspector over there, suffering from tuberculosis, but it never actually says he is. I suspect he is. Rules of passage for travel aboard the SS Burlia. Not keep yet. By bringing her pet on board, Miss Pavlova has broken the rules. She called it her friend, didn't she? Yes. Though we don't know what form this friend takes as yet. She's got a pet snake! I'm almost certain that whatever it is, it's inside the traveling case in her cabin. A friend. There's more to this than it seems, I think. All the books provided for passengers occupying this cabin, neatly arranged on the shelf. All over the place when we first looked around, if you remember. Oh yes. And you tidied them up, didn't you? You have to look after the ship's property. Unruly behavior in the cabins leads to damage. The statue on the bookcase, yeah. T-pose. Well, not... that's more of an X-pose, really. A lot of words sound similar. I think some professor tried to make inter-Slavic language that all Slavic people would understand even without studying, and it worked pretty well. Okay. Well, I suppose that sort of happens if languages share a common root. You can sort of see that with some of the Scandinavian languages as well, if I'm not mistaken. Some languages are more easier to understand by different sort of nationalities than others. But anyway, I feel better now that they're neatly lined up. I can't relax when things are untidy. Okay. Let's have a look down here. So it's clear that these letters were written with the ink that was somehow spilt on the floor. And they spelled the Russian word for wardrobe. It does seem to be an unambiguous pointer to you, Naruhodo-san, as you were sleeping in there. But to be truly unambiguous, it should have just spelt out my name, don't you think? Well, either way, one fact remains. Okay, that's kind of cool. I've sort of been making fun of them for wearing Japanese schoolgirl uniforms because obviously the Japanese school uniform is based on sailor uniforms from the time to sort of develop a sense of military professionalism in students. Honestly, it does look pretty good on the guys. Either way, one fact remains. It's hard to imagine that Kazama-sama would have written his last words, or word, in Russian. Which begs the question of who did write it. Exactly. Got another Russian boy over here, just a regular sailor. You! Where did you go? Oh, sorry, I just went to the next door cabin to... Why? Who gave you permission for this? Well, Seaman Hosonaga did. That knew Japanese, was it? Later, I will lure him into a bowl and throw him in cold room. Not even giving us a belly button fan service, worst sailor. We don't need belly button fan service. This is a non-fan service channel. Oh, he's gone back to guarding the door. I don't think at this point they would be Soviet sailors. I think it would just be Russian. Since this is pre-World War One. What you mean, that one there? Hey, I hope Inspector Hosonaga doesn't find himself in too much trouble on our account. Yeah, Russian Empire. He's really gone out of his way to help us, hasn't he? When we get back to Japan, have to take him for a steak at La Carnival. That could be a very long time from now, Naruhodo-san. Although there is a communist revolutionary in here. This gentleman over here, who's got an incredibly sort of stereotypical name as well. Mighty Beard. Mighty Mustache. This is where Kazuma spent his final moments, writing in his diary. 1:23 a.m. Can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35. What sounds like some sort of speckled... What looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Yeah. This is definitely pre-1918, pre-World War. Looking at his writing here on this page, it's almost impossible to believe that he's gone. I'm not sure if the Russo-Japanese War has happened yet or not, admittedly. Kazuma-sama left us a valuable clue in these words, I'm sure of it. We have to solve this mystery, Naruhodo-san. We will. I don't think that's the case, Kitty. Anything else to investigate? So this ventilator joins the Miss Pavlova's cabin. Yes, that's right. And just a few minutes before he died, Kazuma saw something emerging from it. The speckled band, as he described it. Only Miss Pavlova had been able to shed some light on it, but she seemed as baffled as we are. What is that? A plane took off behind you? I don't know. Is it catching some of the noise in the background? I've got the door closed, but the walls are thin. It's just a mixing bowl. Yes. I wonder if she's telling us everything, though. Yeah, they're not following accurate history or anything like that. I mean, have you seen this guy over here? Have you seen those goggles? Those are definitely way too advanced for the era. I'm not sure. I know most people aboard would say the same about me, but there was something about that woman that didn't sit right with me. Okay, let's speak with the inspector. How's your TV holding up? Ooh, it looks like he got beaten up. Ah, you're back. Inspector! What happened to you? Your face is... Please, don't worry about it. It just scratches. That looks like a pretty impressive black eye you got going on there. Looks like they would punch a man with glasses. Made by a bear, maybe? When I told the captain that I'd given you permission to investigate, he told me he'd pummel me with his fists and then toss me overboard. I'm not kink-shaming Hosonaga. I'm not. What? But the pummeling was over in a flash, and he must have decided against throwing me overboard. Man looks like a World War I vet. Well, does have a little bit of a sort of like a classic... Like, he doesn't have the mustache, though. Also, hey, Hell, welcome. But ship captains don't take no nonsense. I read a book about a World War I sorry, a World War II Japanese naval captain, and while he wasn't sort of like this, he said that his time at Naval Academy, like all like the senior students and teachers and all that, were just beating up like all the junior students and stuff. They didn't take shit. They just beat you up for no reason, and sort of ended up giving him like a ringing in his ears that sort of lasted for his whole life, I believe. Yeah, being in the Navy sucks. End of the 19th century. Okay, so a little bit earlier than I thought. Oh, it was nothing, really. Looks like he wasn't joking when he said he'd lay his life on the line if he had to. Oh, well, thanks to your efforts, we now know a little about the neighboring cabin. Yes, so I understand. Oh! I bumped into a man claiming to be a great detective a little while ago. I think his name was something like Herr Lock Sholmes. I don't think he was German, though. Ah, that explains it. Shall we compare notes, then? We can tell you what we found out. Yes, let's do it. All right, let's have a talk with him. What? Nikolina Pavlova? She's in the cabin next door? Oh, do you know who she is? Deads would oppose does back in the day. Grandpas would abuse green soldiers. Yeah, that. I guess it's not just Japan that sort of did that. I can't imagine it would have just been Japan. And hell, it happens today. Like, there's all sorts of examples of hazing in the military that you sort of find out about. Oh, do you know who she is? Please. What self-respecting ballet fan wouldn't know that graceful angel? His TV's acting up again. Oops, I think I upset him there. Well, that tells us the neighboring cabin is unrelated to the case, at least. He doesn't have corona, he's got tuberculosis. Stop disease shaming him. Oh? How? Because angels don't go around committing crimes, do they? What about that British lady before, huh? What about her? Oops, now I've definitely upset him. Inspector, has your investigation in here proved fruitful? If I'm honest, there's very little more I can do. Our duty is to make sure the scene isn't disturbed, ready to hand over to the Hong Kong police. So, I'm just keeping watch here, trying not to take my eyes off the job. Keeps the tradition of everyone simping the moment a female character enters the fray. Oh, I see. There is one thing. I do have a small piece of new information for you. Oh, what? Yes, do tell us, Inspector, please. Let's hear about this new information. What is this new information you have, Inspector? It's this. The Burriest medical officer has finished his examination of the body. I managed to obtain the report. Oh, Kazuma's post-mortem report? Kazuma-sama. What was the cause of death? Poison! Venom! Damage to the cervical vertebrae is what's written in the report. Unless we broke his back, huh? Okay. His neck, rather. His neck was broken? Broke his spine. Yes, it would seem so. There were no obvious wounds or other signs of injury. Yeah, but Aqua isn't around. I haven't seen Aqua running around. So at first, I think they were considering poison. But it turns out they found no trace of poison in his system at all. What weapon was used then? Aqua's not useless. Nothing has been found as yet, but the fact that there are no signs of a wound suggests it may have been a blunt object. Something that wouldn't leave a mark. Oh, I see. All the body's nerves run through the spine to the brain. A strong enough impact to the neck could induce death. It is a possibility, and no obvious wound would be left. Poor Kazuma. Hi, Kazuma des. I have a second copy of the report. If it might be useful, you're welcome to have it. Really? Are you sure? Yes, it's fine. I trust you. After all, if I didn't trust you, I'd never have agreed to you leaving this cabin in the first place, would I? That's when he smiles. It sends hearts doki doki. Okay, post-mortem report in the court record. Report from the SS Burria's medical officer, giving the cause of death as a cervical spine injury. There were no traces of external injury or poison. Okay, well that's against my theory that there was a snake in the vent. Who knows? They could be wrong. It could have been faked. With all those, I thought he had a really punchable face when he smiled. Okay, victim, male, Far Eastern. Time of death, between 1 AM and a little past 2. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death. The victim's neck was almost certainly broken as a result of a strong blow to the area. No obvious external injuries or traces of poison. Now, these post-mortem reports aren't as reliable as they are in other Ace Attorney games. Not that they were reliable in those either. Thank you, Miles Edgeworth. But so far, at least, it's not mentioning anything about poison. It's outright saying that it isn't. Yeah, exactly, Marshall. 30 minutes in, and the prosecutor hits you with updated autopsy records. Nope, he was almost dead. Okay. Kazuma got John Wicked. I'm looking forward to the next season of Konosuba, I have to say, though. Alright, so, the Great Detective. None of this would fly in an actual court of law. Kuro in chat actually does legal stuff. And he's this game does his head in. It's rather amusing. Oh, Mr. Sholmes was here, wasn't he? Yes, he seemed to be enjoying himself a little too much as he crept about on the floor investigating. But then he suddenly left. I suppose he must have become bored. I'm looking forward to seeing how the prosecution is in this, now that we've sort of dealt with the gasp and pain sort of fellow. Did he say anything at all? Actually, now you mention it, yes. Just one thing, but he practically shouted it. I mean, stealing is still illegal, right? It's shoe polish, was all he said. Shoe polish? I wonder what he meant. The ink, perhaps? Was shoe polish? Or that black stain over by the glass? It was when he was over there, by the piece of broken glass. Do you see? Perhaps he was talking about this brick-colored mark, do you think? Yes, that must be it. But how could Mr. Sholmes know that it's shoe polish? That leaves me cold, I'm afraid. I have no idea. What is it, Susato-san? Well, Kazuma-sama was wearing leather shoes with a very dark tan hue. There are several ways that he could have figured it out. Of course, Sholmes is not the brightest tool in the shed, or is a tool that gets mixed up, I guess. But he could have licked it, he could have smelled it. There are definitely ways of telling it's shoe polish. Dark tan. A sort of dark brownish red, then. Yes, a little like the color of red wine, but darker. I often repaired them for him. Do you mean, perhaps, a shade of brick? Oh! Does that mean that this mark was made by the polish on Kazuma's shoes as they scuffed on the floor? Okay. That's really all I can tell you at this stage. Okay, piece of a small glass object and what looks like a scuff mark made by Kazuma's shoes were found by the victim's body. Okay. I wonder if this could be what beamed him on the neck. And there's a little bit of discoloration over there. So I'm wondering if this and that could be... Actually, that might just be the gap in the flooring. Okay. Alright. I should return to my post. My fellow crewmen's eyes are boring into the back of my head. Yes, that might be for the best. Thank you. Poor Inspector. You look exhausted. Oh, no. Well. I feel terrible that I failed to protect Asogi-san. He was my responsibility. Of course, my pain is nothing compared to yours. You were his friends. But truth is, I seem to have had a heavy head ever since I woke this morning. Because perhaps you were drugged or hit over the head as well? A heavy head. That's interesting. I had a heavy head as well. My head's still throbbing too. All of us got beamed on the back of the head. Okay. So, nothing else here. I wonder if that guard's left now. Let's go have a look. Could be a gas leak, maybe. We have established that there are those vents, after all. They all got a boot to the head. Indeed, indeed. Alright, let's head out to the hallway. What's an extra boot for the wimp? Alright. First class cabin passageway. Look, Alohoro-san. A seaman Stroganoff is gone. Strong enough? No! Stroganoff! Beef Stroganoff! Oh. The burly Russian sailor, who's always crossing his arms and glaring at us. All these Russian names are impossible to remember. I missed the strong enough reference in that pun. Again, the people who translated this have done an excellent job with the names of these characters. Tra-la-la. Ooh, is she doing some ballet in there? Did you hear that? It sounded like someone singing. Tra la la dee la dee la lay. I did it the great detective way. Oh, it's a Herlock. It's caroling. I know that lark-like voice. Oh, never mind that now. This is a golden opportunity for us. Yes, you're right. We must seize it. Let's get inside Miss Pavlova's cabin while we can and investigate. Definitely. Before that stringy knot crewman comes back. It's Stroganoff, not Stringy Knot. Remember his name, that's rude. Gogol's literature with the names. I'm not familiar with Gogol. There are certainly a lot of things that do similar things. In particular, I think Ace Attorney does an excellent job with them. Miss Pavlova's cabin. This could be our chance. What? The burly sailor doesn't appear to be around at the moment. We could investigate every last inch of that cabin. I'm not sure if we could go that far. But we could certainly do with looking around more. I'm sure we can learn something. Hey! What are you doing over here? Oh, it's Mr. Sholmes, look! Wow. Never know where he's going to turn up next, do you? Seems to be stealing a look at something as he sings to himself. Tra la la lee la lee la lay. I did it the great detective way. He's still singing. Do you think he hasn't noticed us? Or he's simply in extremely high spirits? Herlock is definitely very thick. Thick in the head. Yes, there were times, I'm sure you knew, when the yard bit off more than it could chew. And through it all, when there was doubt, it's lucky her lock was about. Excuse me. I solved it all, and I stood tall. I did it the great detective way. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm trying to sneak past Seaman Stroganov, but I'm dummy thick, and the clap on my ass cheeks keeps alerting the crew. Mr. Sholmes! Ah! What is it? You want to fight? Put him up! Honestly, interrupting a fellow when he's singing, and I was just about to reach the climactic finish. Sorry, I thought you were definitely going to stop, so I figured now is as good a time as any. I very nearly dropped to the floor with one of my famous right hooks. Alright, I get the picture. Could you put those fists away? He was about to show us the basics of CQC. Mr. Sholmes? You seem to be examining something before we interrupted you. Yes, that. I was immersed in the study of the ship's log, as penned by the stockily built crewman who's usually on guard here. Oh yes, the ship's log. And did you find out anything useful from it? After 2 a.m. this morning, the majority of the entries are blank. Which means that there was nothing to report. Nothing of note happened, so... Oh, you truly are a student from the land of the rising sun. You've been utterly blinded by it. Sorry? Your logic, my boy, is inverted. Whatever do you mean, Mr. Sholmes? Observe the other pages, and all shall become clear. It would seem the same crewman often stands sentry in this first-class passageway. There's certainly been a few racist characters in this, which is interesting, considering this is a Japanese piece. And it's the British characters who are being racist to the Japanese, which obviously would be accurate at the time, I imagine. And he has an almost religious practice of recording nothing to report every half hour. Aha! So he was not there, or he was not conscious at the time, because of that possible gas leak. Oh. Which? Hold on. Speckled band. Maybe that's not a snake. Maybe that's a gas line. Faint whistling sound and gas. There we go. Alright. Writes that in every 30 minutes. Nothing to report. Precisely. Put simply, the seaman writes nothing to report when there is just that. Kazuma heard the whistling sound just before he died. That was Kazuma's diary. And yet, the ship's log from last night is largely blank. He didn't even write nothing to report. Do you mean... Yes. There were circumstances afoot last night, which led to the seaman being absent from his post. What kind of circumstances? What happened? That remains a mystery for now, but we can be sure something significant took place. So significant that it caused the seaman to forget his regular habit of scribing nothing to report in the log. You hate the word seaman? What's wrong? Just describing men of the sea here. These are important details. I would stake my life on it. You must log the ship's log in your mental file. Yep, ship's log has been logged in our mental file. Record kept by the crew assigned to the first class cabin. There are virtually no entries from 2 AM until early this morning. Ocean lad. Ocean lads and ocean ladies. Not necessarily, Prim. Okay, nothing to report, nothing to report, nothing to report, nothing to report. So 1:30 is where the reports stopped. The gas started leaking out at around then. I imagine it would take some time to sort of affect people. So 1:30, still conscious. Obviously Kazuma still was. Kazuma notices the gas line being pumped in. Ocean lass. Ocean lads and ocean lasses. Now that deduction was worthy of a great detective. Liquid being. You're starting to understand what my way is, I see. What makes Sholmes, Sholmes. Brilliance. Oh. Ouch. What was it? Are you hurt? I laughed so hard I cracked my ribs. Gas pass. Oh, don't worry yourself. I seem to be afflicted with a throbbing head this morning for some reason. Nothing more. Well, my friends, until our next encounter. Still singing to himself. I can hear it as he wanders off down the passageway. Is something wrong, Susato-san? You seem lost in thought. It's just... well, I feel the same. Sorry? Ever since I woke this morning, I've had something of a headache. A sort of continuous throbbing. Oh, you too. So it wasn't just the first class cabins, it was also the rest of the ship. Okay. Yeah, get bonked. Alright. Let's head into Miss Pavlova's cabin, shall we? Alright, the suitcase is open now, so whatever pet was inside is no longer there. Miss Pavlova isn't back yet. Susato-san? Where's she gone? Hey! What are you doing? Those are her private things. There's not a moment to waste, Naruhodo-san. We must investigate as quickly as we can. I suppose you're right. For Kazuma's sake. Not just for Kazuma-sama. What do you mean? Can't be long now until we arrive at port in Hong Kong. I don't want you to be in those handcuffs when we get there. But really? We must solve this case, Naruhodo-san. By ourselves if we have to. Yes, we will. So... I wonder why all of those shelves are knocked down. Could it be because someone was perhaps searching for the tiara of the ballerina, I wonder? Who I suspect is actually a Russian royal. Okay. Let's have a look in here, shall we? That's on the floor as well. This ventilator connects to Kazuma's cabin next door. Yes. Although, what fool a shipbuilder must be to open a ventilator into another room. Ah, maybe it's so that if there's a gas leak next door, the occupant of this cabin would notice and raise the alarm. No, as they're both unconscious. Or the occupants of both cabins would die of gas poisoning. bit on the nose there, people. Knock down the books that let out the inner anarchist. That is a possibility, Prim. Anyway, last night, Kazuma wrote that he saw a speckled band coming out of this ventilator. One of those next to the bed in Kazuma's cabin, too. Yes, it's a bell cord. Oh, I can't resist! She barely hesitated there. And she gave it a good tug, too. Nikolai II had an affair with the ballerina. Alright. This lady over here, she's in possession of a very expensive tiara that she mentioned was a gift from, I believe, an Austrian noble or a Hungarian noble or something like that. So I'm a little bit sus on what's going on with her. What was that? Yeah. No, didn't actually expect anyone to come. We don't want them to! We're trying to investigate in secret. Alright. We can't use the bed, Prim. Naruhodo-san? Are you there? Sorry, I'm right here, yes. Why? Oh, good. I thought you might have climbed into the wardrobe when I wasn't looking. There's no place like home. Believe me, I don't have some strange compulsion to jump inside every wardrobe I see, you know. Well, anyway, I'm not sure anyone could fit inside this one. It's full of beautiful outfits. I suppose they're all stage costumes. I was rather hoping we might find Miss Pavlova's friend hiding in there, but no such luck. This cabin door has the same simple sort of bolted latch that our cabin door has. if the bolt's drawn across, there's no way anybody could enter the cabin from outside. Yes, it's not a particularly heavy-duty bolt, is it? It looks heavy-duty to me, but still, it wouldn't slide across of its own accord, would it? No. The door is made of metal, so there's no chance of trickery using magnets to unbolt it from the outside. And it seals up perfectly, too. Stop any seawater coming in. Hey Drago, welcome! How are you going? So you couldn't use the method you told me of passing a thread through a crack around the closed door either. I seem to know a lot of tricks for opening doors. I'm starting to see why they suspect me. Job hunting does suck. So all the best with that, okay, Drago? Hopefully you'll be able to find something soon. Yes, they are displayed in this cabin too. Look, SS Buria's Rules of Passage. Not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins, and no pets. I suppose Miss Pavlova realized that she needed to keep the contents of her case a secret after she read this. Her special friend, I mean. Wonder where her friend has disappeared to now. It's probably having fun exploring the ship, I imagine. I just hope Seaman Stroganov doesn't find it and throw it overboard. Oh, yes. So do I. Going to tidy these up as well. All the books have toppled over together. Look, every single one. Do you think that's a god of the sea, perhaps? He's toppled over too. It's exactly the same as the bookcase next door. In Kazuma's cabin. Perhaps Miss Pavlova was practicing a difficult ballet pose and fell against the bookcase? I don't know. Would she really be practicing ballet on the same night she ran away from her ballet company? Alright then. It must have been you. You lost your temper and knocked them all over in a fit of rage. Not everything bad that happens on this ship is because of me, you know. Well, anyway, I'll set them all straight again in here too. I don't like seeing things in disarray. The more you know. That's when Lego was invented. It would seem this teapot is empty. So the natural conclusion is that the Russians are a very thirsty people. Or because Miss Pavlova only came into this cabin last night, she hasn't had the chance to make any tea yet? I mean, it could be either. That's, Naruhodo-san, that's not exactly an accurate statement to make, dummy. Lego used to be a wooden toy company. That's what I was sort of thinking. I was thinking, like, before Legos, like, I have to imagine that they would have had similar toys. So wooden blocks would make sense as something for people to use. It's definitely that they're excessively thirsty. I'd lay 1,000 to 1 on it. Alright, well, Marshall said it's alright. You're rather obstinate, aren't you, Naruhodo-san? I know I'm definitely a very thirsty person. Especially when I'm sort of reading things out for people. Full-on toys, not just blocks, like toy trains. Okay. I wonder what this little saucer is doing on the floor. Yes. Doesn't look like it's been dropped. More like it was put there deliberately. Do you think there could be a leak in the roof just above here? I think she might have been feeding her pet out of this, possibly. Regular wooden toys until their manufacturing caught fire. Well, wood is pretty flammable, and I suppose if you're painting the wooden blocks, the paints are quite possibly flammable as well. Yeah, I'm not exactly a thirsty person outside of drinks. I didn't actually make that connection until you mentioned it, Drago. Man, that could have been taken out of context. What? A leak? Is this ship quite safe? I'm sure that even if there's a little leak in the roof, it doesn't mean that the whole ship is going to sink. One time when I was getting some rum from a bottle shop, it was not one that I usually go to. The owners were Indian, and he happened to mention that a popular a rum sort of cocktail in the Indian military is rum and hot water, apparently. It's supposed to be quite nice. I haven't tried it yet. Mostly I drink soft drink, hell. I do like a little bit of whiskey here and there, a little bit of rum, but I would definitely not call myself an excessive drinker or anything like that. Well, at least other people noticed and didn't sort of make fun of me, I guess. I totally didn't notice. Like, I only noticed until Drago sort of mentioned it, and I was like, hang on a second. I just said that I was a pretty thirsty person. Now, obviously I was talking about beverages, but there is another word that people use thirsty for. Sounds like grog. No, you're right. Of course you're right. She's really trying to persuade herself, isn't she? Recently heard that you can make Cuba Libre with kvass. Kvass Libre. Okay. Kvass Libre. Okay. I haven't had kvass before. Okay. Yeah, Cuba Libre is rum and coke. I think it's specifically like with the lime. Yeah, with the lime. So it wouldn't be rum and coke. It would be kvass and coke and lime. So it'd be a kvass Libre, I guess. Or a Slav Libre, maybe? If we're sort of going by region. What's it taste like? Just a few books on the desk. Nothing else by the looks of it. Well, Miss Pavlova only ran away from the ballet last night. She's hardly occupied this cabin for any time at all. That's true. Wonder what kind of books she likes to read. Let me see. Yes, I see. It would seem that Miss Pavlova enjoys reading books written in Russian. Thanks, I think I probably already knew that. It's rude to ask too much of people, Naruhodo-san. Kindly remember that. I normally just go with rum and coke rather than adding the lime. Mostly because I don't have lime on hand, and it's just easy to sort of go with the rum and coke, and it tastes pretty good, so... Oh my! Miss Pavlova's case is open! It's completely empty inside. But according to the Great Detective's great deduction, she was hiding her special friend in there. Yes, a friend that she had to keep secret. Because you're not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Burrier. One thing I want to give a go is Fireball and apple cider. I've heard that that's pretty good. Pretty strong, but pretty good. Okay, refreshing neutral. Sometimes brewed like beer. Similar to beer, but smoother and a bit sweet. Okay, I'm generally not a fan of beer. There are a few more floral ones that I've liked, but I would certainly give it a go. Normally the chat doesn't get so obsessed with alcohol or anything like that. It just seems to have gone that way for some reason. Hopefully it's not too off-putting or anything. I thought AA meant Ace Attorney! No, this is GAAC. Great Alcoholics, All Countries. That's what this stream is. Not allowed to bring animals aboard the SS Burrier. Wonder what kind of animal she had in there. And more to the point, where is it now? Ding-a-ling-a-ling-ling. Oh, what's that? Oh no, it's an air raid. Shut down the engines immediately. Vessel sighted. A quarter-mile for. Full stop. Hard to starboard. All hands. Brace for impact. What the? I think we're about to crash into another ship. What? I can't stand. Sato-san, hold on to me. Ah! We're supposed to brace ourselves. Sato-san, are you all right? Are you injured at all? I think I'm fine. Thank you, Naruhodo-san. Looks like we've avoided a collision. Looks like it messed up those bookshelves for you. Have to fix them up again. Tipped a few more things on the floor. I think yes, the ship has come to a stop. Oh my goodness! What about you, Naruhodo-san? Are you hurt? All hands, man your battle stations. I mean, that's pretty standard. It might be from World of Warships, but it is hardly the first thing to say man your battle stations. Oh, hello, Genie. Cat wants to go out. Give me a second. I'm also going to go grab myself a drink. Speaking of, I'll grab myself some rum and coke, since we're all sort of talking about that. All right, let's get back into it. Is it time for Jaeger bombs at 12:25 midday? Probably not. It's 9:30 for me, so I'm fine. It's socially acceptable for me to have a drink. Okay, let's get back into it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of energy drinks. I don't really drink them. I had one or two previously, and one of them was just because it was free. And I felt like having a drink. No, I'm fine. Hello? Is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Oh, that sounds like... I don't know. It had question mark, question mark, question mark. Oh, Inspector Hosonaga. Is that you in there, Naruhodo-san? Unbolt the door, quickly. What the bolt? Aha! So the bolt moves when the ship rocks. So that bolt doesn't sort of secure in place. So even if the door was locked at night or anything like that, it could have come unlocked. It could have become locked and became a closed room mystery previously. So there is no way for them to prove conclusively that I was the only person in the cabin if it can just lock on its own. Look at that! The door's bolted. And all the stuff is knocked over, which further sort of confirms what was sort of going on that night. Did you do that, Susato-san? No, I didn't touch it. It is a pretty crappy bolt. Well, that's strange. How did... And look at all the books. They're just like they were before again. Case solved. So basically they can't prove that I did it. Obviously, this being an Ace Attorney game, it's going to make me solve the entire thing. It's not going to just let me settle for beyond all reasonable doubt. Naruhodo-san, aren't you going to open the door and let the inspector in? I mean, you could do that. I'd better tidy this place up first. Let the inspector in! Our violent emergency stop had solved one mystery, at least, in a very vivid way. But I knew that what awaited us on the other side of the cabin door would not be pleasant. I hurried around tidying up the cabin with a new sense of foreboding in my heart. Okay. That was a lot faster than the previous one. Let's save our progress. Investigation Part 3! I'm just going to do all the investigating. Okay. Somehow, the door to the cabin we were in ended up bolted after we made an emergency stop. Susato-san took a deep breath and gently slid back the bolt. You! What are you doing in Miss Pavlova's quarters? Ah, you both look unhurt. Good. Yes, we're fine, thank you. What on earth happened? We heard something about how we were going to collide with another ship. Yes, it appears to have been a false report, though. Oh, how did that happen? There's a dense fog outside, so it's extremely difficult to see. Someone must have thought that he saw a ship ahead. This person obviously triggered the alarm, and that's why we made an emergency stop. Everything is chaos. Passengers are screaming. Crews running out everywhere. Oh, this first class area is the only quiet part of the ship at the moment. And shouldn't you be helping calm people down? Oh, I see. Someone triggered the alarm. Does that mean... I'm glad someone thinks so. Someone pressed that button outside? Ah! You wicked intruder! Dressed all in black! You are the devil! Spare your eyes, don't look at the cute Russian girl. The best girls are waiting in the future. In the future? No spoilers, Prim! Unless you mean like in future Ace Attorney games. I'm sorry, me? I've been called a lot of things before, but devil is a first. You opened my traveling case! How could you? Yeah, you're right, I believe. Yeah, 15. But she's cute. Be nice to her. Russian females are either hot as heck or they look like they could beat the shit out of you, or both. What? No, we didn't touch it. That's right, Miss Pavlova. It was already open when we came into your cabin. Inspector! Yes? Arrest this man. I know he did it. He is a criminal. Is it not enough that he has killed a man?
Duh! And he is stowaway as well. If Vixen promises not to steal chicken, do you believe?
Take him away. He is a trespasser as well as everything else.
Stowing away, trespassing, killing. She is a light. You a devil.
Doesn't look good, does it?
There is a cell below deck. Throw him in. Tomorrow we dock in Hong Kong. Then we give you straight to police.
Oh wait, a cell? Please, Inspector Hosonaga. Is there nothing you can do? This is a Russian vessel. I really have no jurisdiction here. After my last effort to appeal to the captain's good nature, I think I'm out of options. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is a real crisis. Gotta find a solution. Immediately! Move! Run! Run! Okay. Let's climb into the vent. Just need to keep calm and focus on the task at hand, which is investigating. Don't touch my things!
You want me to show you where clawfish hibernates?
Yeah! Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think you're doing? Wow. Everyone's attacking me. I was just starting to think that she was my friend. Isn't there anyone who could help me out of this mess? I clearly got to go into the vent. Ever have a presupposition about someone, you're more likely to look for the things that agree with you, what you think, rather than the opposite. That is exactly true. That is why it is important. This is something that historians sort of try to sort of subscribe to. Don't form theories about your subjects. Always go with the evidence, because if you sort of like form a story around something, all the evidence is going to start looking. All the evidence is going to start looking like it backs up your story. So, all right, let's ignore him for now. You've got yourself into a difficult situation here. By entering this cabinet uninvited, I mean. Sorry, I was just so desperate to find a clue. Mm-hmm. That's the problem with all of those sources. You do have to sort of like make a conclusion at some point. You got to be really careful. I'm afraid that there's really nothing more I can do to help you. If I push my luck any further, a punch to the face will be the least of my worries. I'm really sorry. I have to take responsibility for giving you the freedom to investigate Miss Pavlova's cabin. Now that this has happened, I'll have to report to the captain at once. I really need some help here. I need a savior to rescue me from this crisis. Can you help me, Beef? Please, just give me a little more time. I do nothing for you. Except show you way to ship's prison cell. Thanks, but no thanks. Do what, Drago? What should I do? But I'm innocent! I didn't kill anyone! And trespassing? And stowing away? Well, you know... Sometimes life can lead you down some unusual avenues, and, well... Enough! You are guilty! Ship's cell is only place fit for you. Come on, there has to be someone. Some savior to rescue me from this crisis. Cause my friend invited me along. He said that I should come join him in England and learn how Great Britain does lawyering and detectiving and stuff like that. But only he had a ticket. So he said, like, hey, I'll come along, hide in the wardrobe. It'll be fine. And then he goes and dies. Let's talk with her now. Maybe she can help us. Miss Pavlova, can I get out? Listen, I'm sorry that we snuck in here without your permission, but get out now. We just needed to investigate in here to help understand what happened. Oh, what's she saying there? Oh, it's no use. She's not going to listen. I need to find someone who will. Farewell. If only someone could save us. Only someone could save us from our predicament. Maybe someone in the vents. Alright. It's an adventure game. I have to click on everything, Drago. And the cat wants to come in. Give me a second. Oh, das Vidanya. So that's what she said. That's how it's written in the Cyrillic, I guess. Hold on, let me... Cables are a little bit tangled. Let me... Whatever. Screw this, I'll do this later. Alright. What the... What are you doing up there? Mr. Sholmes! And he's got the tiara! Why are you wearing the tiara? Naturally, I was analyzing what a weight of 20,000 rubles feels like on one's head. Have I not told you that as a detective, it is my business to know what other people do not? This isn't mere tomfoolery, my boy. Oh, no, no. Well... Why were you hanging from that hook before, then? Isn't it obvious? To properly assess the weight of the 20,000 rubles, naturally. I wish to determine if it would bend that conceited-looking hook on the wall, so full of brag and bounce. I never know whether to take this man seriously or not. You again, the great detective. Inspector, I confess I've been looking for you. I have something to report to you most urgently. Well, you might try looking for me somewhere other than a hook on the wall next time.
What is to report? Speak!
An urgent report from a great detective can mean but one thing. Yes. Hello, Jeannie. I'll pet you, okay? The case of the curious murder that took place last night here on the vessel, the steamship Burlia, has been solved by me, naturally. What? Really? Yes, I have eliminated all other possibilities. No other explanations are necessary. Exist, rather. If it could mean but one thing, does that mean it could mean everything except one thing? English is weird. No. It means that it can only mean one thing. So we're probably going to have to correct his theory now as well, aren't we? So, allow me to illuminate all your minds. For I am about to reveal my great detective's greatly admired great deduction to the case.
You have solved it. Even Hedgehog understands this case. We all know who was responsible for killing Student Boy this morning, when we found criminal in wardrobe. It is this stowaway, and he has handcuffs to prove it.
I didn't do it! The trouble is, there doesn't appear to be anyone else who could have killed the victim. Because, as everyone knows, the cabin door was bolted shut from the inside. That means the culprit must be someone who was inside the cabin. But it wasn't a true closed room mystery. Yes, it's what's called a locked room mystery in detective stories. It's not though.
Da! Locked room, that is point.
The room was locked. I can't deny that. There's no way the bolt could have been drawn across from outside the cabin. You are all quite mistaken. The cabin next door is not a so-called locked room at all. What? Oh yes, there is another entrance. An entrance used last night by the culprit in order to gain access to the cabin despite the bolted door. What other entrance? We never discovered one. Why, it gapes open-mouthed at you even as we speak. The ventilator man! The ventilator?
Gah! Ah, 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 ah! You think this is funny? I cannot even put my arm through that hole.
That's because your arms are as thick as tree trunks. You're suggesting that the culprit entered and left the victim's cabin through that tiny opening? It's not possible. Ah, but it is. And last night, the victim even witnessed the intruder in the act of passing through the ventilator. Mr. Sholmes, do you mean? Are you referring to the words Kazuma-sama wrote in his diary? At 1:23 a.m., I can hear a faint whistling sound. 1:35 a.m., what looks like some sort of speckled band is dangling from the ventilator grill. Precisely, my dear madame. But what does it mean? What is this speckled band? The answer to that particular conundrum is in this very cabin. Mr. Sholmes? What are you doing? There is a distinct element of danger. But fear not, I am ready. What I am about to expose for you all to see will shock you to your cores. In the third game, there is definitely an unexpected killing in that one. A very cool one that I'm not going to spoil. But yeah, basically anyone can be a killer in an Ace Attorney game. Behold! Yeah! Ah! What the? It is a snake! Allow me to introduce you all to the band. The Speckled Band. It's a friendly snake. A snake. Indubitably. I did say there was a snake in this. But there's still a gas leak. This is a red herring. Mr. Sholmes? Just one thing. Pray, what troubles you? Well, that snake isn't really speckled, is it? It looks more stripy, wouldn't you say? Yes, you're right. I think in this case you'd have to call it... Oh hey, you can see his belly button. The Striped Band, wouldn't you? You both see and observe with distinction. However, do you not think that is precisely the trap into which the culprit wishes you to fall. I only mentioned it because people in chat before were mentioning it. So I feel like it is my duty to mention it for the chat, because they seem to be so obsessed with belly buttons. And sailor uniforms. Oh my goodness, really? It's a trap? How exactly? I think perhaps it is time I explain the intricacies of my train of thought. Looks like a fish. Are you ready, Miss Pavlova? I'm sorry for the young man who died, but that is all. His death is nothing to do with me. The whole thing is nothing to do with me. There are two conclusions I have drawn from the facts. Number one. Last night, your friend infiltrated the victim's cabin. And number two, that same friend was responsible for the victim losing his life. No. Oh, she's turned as white as a bowl of rice again. Oh, Sholmes must be right. He's hit the nail on the head. Of this young woman's friend killed Mr. Asogi? Herlock's not right. It's a red herring. Da! Looks like he can't speak with that snake coiled around his head. This is all leading up to us representing her in court. I would advise as little movement as possible, Ocean Lad. You wouldn't want the fangs of that long friend in your neck. So, everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular. Here we go! Another great deduction. The game is afoot! Intruder's identity. Miss Pavlova, moments ago, you claimed the following. His death was nothing to do with me. This whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet, you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. Okay, so this is something where he's wrong about. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link to the victim's death. Yeah, but he didn't die from venom. He died from his spine breaking in the neck. So the snake clearly snapped his neck by constricting him. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? It could, but we already know that Herlock is wrong. We already know that Herlock is wrong. As I suspected, another telltale glance. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us. That isn't her pet? Alright. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, I mean, it's clearly constricting enough to stop this guy from being able to speak. But yes, mostly snakes that aren't venomous kill via constriction and smothering someone rather than breaking their bones. This specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying but failing to conceal can only be the snake's sloughed skin. So that is not snake skin. That is something else. Evidently, after the subtle and horrible crime, this most deadly friend of yours shed its original skin. No, I don't know what you were talking about. It's definitely a word, kitty. Last night, through the ventilator visible in this cabin, your then speckled friend slithered next door. Using the bell cord on the other side as a bridge, the serpent silently descended into the victim's quarters. I do enjoy this as well. That is very over the top and I love it. In the dim light, it appeared to the young gentleman who was about to lose his life as a speckled band. In summary, the nature of this friend of yours, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime, is a rare breed of snake whose markings change each time it sloughs its skin. It's literally the story of one of the Sherlock Holmes novels. There was actually a quote at the start of this. At the start of this episode, talking about snakes as from a Sherlock novel. So I'm pretty sure that this is completely deliberate, Marshall. A snake so dreadful we can only imagine it would be found in the deepest depths of India. Yeah, they're not going to copy the entire thing. We're still on the gas leak idea, aren't we, everyone? Still on the gas leak? I'm still on the gas leak idea. A beloved speckled snake. How Mr. Asogi died. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter. The grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life? And why? We also still haven't established the writing here that says cupboard and written in Russian when Kazuma Asogi is obviously not Russian. Welcome home, Ada. We're still not sure about the broken neck. As for clues regarding that, we did find some glass in the area that was broken, as well as a scuff mark from a shoe. So it's possible he got bonked on the back of the head with something made of glass, and someone cleaned most of it up and left it behind. But the shoes are Kazuma's. They have his shoe polish. At least so far, that is our suspicion. According to the data of which I have been apprised, it would appear there were no visible signs of injury. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by a terrible venom. We've established the broken neck. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. Oh no, could there be? Yes, an examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Alright, so there's obviously something else suspicious here. The almost, but not quite, imperceptible puncture wounds left by the venomous fangs will seal the truth. Yes, the vestiges of a snake bite delivered by your terrifying friend. This makes no sense. There is no point feigning ignorance, Miss Pavlova. After the incident, you endeavored to hide everything, didn't you? But now, your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. Fangs do leave marks, but we've established this whole time that Sholmes gets things incorrect. He gets close to the mark, but we have to guide him in the right direction. When we first met in this cabin, it came to my attention that your case moved periodically. Your serpent assassin was restless inside, no doubt. You don't. It is telling that the victim made note of a low whistling sound that he heard minutes before his end. That was your signal, was it not? The sound you had used to train your serpent friend. To train? Indeed, you'd put the serpent through this ventilator and wait. After a period, you'd summon it back with a whistle. You couldn't know if the animal had done its duty, so you would listen for signs of life next door. If the victim appeared not to have been dispatched, you'd release the snake once more. Do you deny this snake has undergone such training? It's not true. Having slithered through the ventilator and down the bell cord, the creature needed only to sink its fangs in once. And its venom would course through the victim's veins, ending his existence forever. That is the true nature of the speckled band that took the poor young man's life. There can be no doubt. My logic is infallible. I'm sure. Thus concludes Herlock Sholmes' great deduction of the speckled band. Now, I feel like Holmes over here is peddling fake news. Miss Pavlova has trained her pet snake as a killing machine. There on the floor, you will observe a saucer of milk. The promise of food is the key to training any creature. Incredible! You've solved the mystery! Amazing. Your great deduction really lives up to its name. I see now why Herlock Sholmes has become such a household name. See you, Kuro. My dear man, it was nothing remarkable. As the Russians say, I could have done it with one left hand. Could I venture an opinion, Mr. Sholmes? Oh, that is a saying. Okay, I thought Sholmes was bullshitting, to be honest. I thought he was just making up stuff, and I thought someone would call him on it. But, of course, what's on your mind? I mean, did you see how epic that presentation was, Prim? And he sounded so confident. It's just about your deductions before. Some things don't quite make sense to me. I welcome questions as to my method, and will answer both loudly and proudly. Oh, good. First of all, snakes are egg-laying creatures, a part of the reptile family. You are well informed, madame. And reptiles, don't drink milk. It's really only mammals that like to drink milk, you see. So, I'm not sure it would be possible to train a snake using milk as a reward. No matter. No doubt Miss Pavlova used some other treat to encourage her pet to do her bidding. Milk was merely an example. The logic holds. There is something else. Snakes have no ears. Yes, so I'm not sure it would really be possible to signal to a snake by whistling. But, madame, what of the tales from Arabia? Have you not heard of the snakes that dance to the sounds of a flute? That's the motion. I think perhaps the performers play their music in time with the snake's natural movements. Oh, I see. No hands, no feet, no ears? These creatures are so inept as to be practically useless. Danger noodles! Don't take it out on the snakes, Mr. Sholmes. It's not their fault. There is one other thing. Is Susato just going Columbo on Sholmes now? Just one more thing, Mr. Sholmes. You have more? Take your phone into the toilet with you and put it on your phone. Susato's pretty cool. Snakes use the scales on their bellies to propel themselves. So, I'm not really sure that a snake could manage to climb up a flat bell cord like the ones in these cabins. I quickly switched the phone. And then it should try harder. Please, don't be angry with me, Mr. Sholmes. The point is, even if the snake had gone through the ventilator to the next door cabin, it couldn't have come back without help. What I'm trying to say is that there are a number of reasons why it's difficult to imagine the snake could have had a part in this. Looks so depressed. I think we need to step in and help again, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh no, you don't mean... Yes, we need to modify Mr. Sholmes' latest deductions and turn them into the great ones they ought to be. I had a feeling that was coming. Alright, let's give it a try. Just what I was waiting for, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Right. So, cast your eyes down to your wrists again. What? You've done it again! Your handcuffs are gone. Where did they go? Fear not. I shall see that they're restored after our work is done. I really wish you'd leave them off. Now, everyone, let us begin. Herlock Sholmes is proud to present his Logic and Reasoning Spectacular. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes! Yeah, exactly, Marshall. We gotta pose with him. Miss Pavlova, moments ago, you claimed the following. His death is nothing to do with me. Whole thing is nothing to do with me. Yet you cannot deceive yourself. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, your aching heart smarts with pain. She does have a pained expression on her face. Yes, that's true. She looks as though Kazuma-sama's death is weighing heavily on her mind. But you're not sure Mr. Sholmes has read her quite correctly, is that it? Could there be some other way to interpret her expression then? Let's take a moment and really look very closely at Miss Pavlova. Okay, aching heart. What else is causing her pain? Aha! She got scratched. Her left ear is causing her pain. There.
Yes.
Scared of the crazy detective. Look at it in 3D instead of 2D. Yes, when you recall those horrid events, that claw scratch smarts with pain. Indeed, and simple observation reveals that the wound is fresh. Maybe she's got a pet bear in her case. Maybe that's what she's got. She's Russian, it's gotta be a bear. Miss Pavlova, did you, in fact, receive that scratch sometime last night? Monkey. You certainly got something exotic, I imagine. When I think about the young man who died next door, I feel so sad. And when I am sad, the pain from this wound is worse. And it is that very pain that evidences your inextricable link with the victim's death. So, we ask, what was the nature of this intruder that stole into the victim's cabin on that portentous night? Why, naturally, it was the friend with which you boarded this vessel, was it not? As I suspected, another
telltale glance. Without doubt, your friend is the writhing serpent we see before us.
Seems likely that the scratch mark on the back of Miss Pavlova's hand was made by this friend of hers, doesn't it? Except snakes don't have claws, do they? No, they don't. They don't even have hands or feet on which claws might grow. Well then, if that snake isn't her pet, what is? What's the true identity of this friend of hers? We should follow her gaze, Naruhodo-san. That's where we'll find the answer. Grew some claws and then retracted them. Okay. Seaman Stroganov is her pet. Ah, it's just a cat, it looks like. Ah, look at that photograph in this frame. This must be something Miss Pavlova brought with her when she ran away. It's just a kitty. They did put you in this game. You're looking epic. Ah, she is exceptionally beautiful, isn't she? Yes, that's true. But personally, it's the little black creature she's holding that's caught my eye. Maybe we'd better take a closer look at this. Little kitten.
Yes!
Was that a bell? Like, I thought that was like glass or something, wasn't it? Though, you're right. That does look like a bell. You're certainly onto something there, Marshall. Mm-hmm. Without doubt, your friend is the little kitten we see before us. Yes, the scratch on the back of your hand makes that abundantly clear. Oh no. The whereabouts of this black kitten isn't clear, but what is clear is that you brought the animal with you when you ran away, didn't you? Ah! Darka is my best friend. I couldn't leave her behind. Darka would appear to be a Russian blue. And yet, that fact leaves us in a quandary. The victim's written observations on the night in question tell of a speckled band. Whereas, regrettably, Donnie Darko, this specimen's markings do not fit that description in any way. What explanation can we then give, pray? What was this sight that fell upon the victim's eyes last night? No, don't look at me. This has nothing to do with any of this. Oh, but it does. You have the answer to this quandary even now, hidden behind your back. Yes, that which you are trying, but failing to conceal, can only be the snake's sloughed skin. Did you see that? Just took something out of her pocket and hid it behind her back. If she'd just left it in her pocket, no one would ever have known. Oh yes, ploys like that are Mr. Sholm's specialty. He's ever so clearly forced her to reveal something. I thought deduction was his specialty. Or maybe making me believe that was a ploy too. Anyway, I find it hard to believe that that's the skin of a snake. In which case... Just what is Miss Pavlova hiding behind her back? Let's have a closer look at it. Well, it is speckled, and it is a band, but... what is it? It seems to be soft and fluffy. Long piece of cloth of some sort? That looks like a handle at one end. A cat toy, perhaps. I think it may be a cat's toy. This sort is common in the West, apparently. How is that a toy for cats? Cats like to chase the band around and paw at it. Kittens in particular love that sort of play. Only need to wave it in front of them, and they pounce to catch it. Standard outfit. Haha, that sounds positively adorable. Okay. Present. Yes, the thing you were trying, but failing to conceal is, a cat's toy. Precisely. And the true nature of the now infamous speckled band. Nocturne was half naked and covered in glowing tattoos. Oh, I was thinking of... the other one. The one set in Meiji era. What's its name? Like Raido versus the Demons or something like that. That's the one I was thinking of, Raido. And it was this toy that you dangled through the ventilator. You waved it around, I presume? Naturally, the victim could not fail to notice it. But why? For what reason? My dear boy, there can be only one answer to that. The cat is the murderer. And that cat boldly strode forth and broke that poor man's neck. After her feline friend disappeared through the ventilator into the neighboring cabin, Miss Pavlova attempted to use the speckled cat's toy to incite the creature to return. In summary, the nature of this friend of Miss Pavlova's, which last night infiltrated the scene of the crime. Nothing much. What's up with you, kitty? Is a blithesome Russian blue breed of cat by the name of Darka. Kya! A truly troublesome feline young Darka is proving to be. She must be caged once found. You will forgive us for borrowing the photo of your pet, Miss Pavlova. Likely, we're going to have to point out the collar and the bell on the collar later on. Okay, photograph of Miss Pavlova and her friend, a kitten named Darka. Tiara she would wear on stage can also be seen. Darka is actually a pretty cute name for a black cat. Darka! Come here! Puss, puss, puss! Come on, Darka! It was after I gave her her food last night. That's when it happened. She scratched the back of my hand and then ran up the bell cord. Before I could do anything, she had disappeared through the ventilator. Darka. She is so naughty. Kitty. Okay. Moving on, we come to the heart of the matter, the grim demise of the victim. How did this young man lose his life? And why? I know, right? This game is just incredible, Kitty. I love the comedy and the drama and how it escalates things in ridiculous ways. If you haven't, I would strongly recommend the live-action Phoenix Wright movie, if you ever get the chance. It basically adapts the first game in the Ace Attorney games, if you haven't seen it. And they do an excellent job with adapting that, and it's so well done. I love it. According to the data of which I have been apprised, it would appear there were no visible signs of injury. That's fair enough, Marshall. I personally found it a riot. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death were from a venom. Oh, Negikitsu! Thank you very much for the bits. I'm definitely enjoying this game. Thanks for dropping by. I do appreciate that, by the way. What Mr. Sholm says is true. There were no signs of a wound anywhere on Kazuma-sama's body. That's right. But Mr. Sholmes seems to be unaware of one very important detail. Right, he hasn't actually received the autopsy report, has he? That was given to us by the inspector. Kazuma wasn't poisoned. Yes, it would seem so. Let's give him the information he's missing now. Okay. So that was the post-mortem report here.
Yes!
Smug MCs are pretty good, I have to say. In fact, the circumstances of the victim's death can only be explained by the post-mortem report. Ah, yes! I knew it was one or the other. His neck was... Looking kind of prosecutor there, Naruto. Indeed, the breaking of the cervical vertebrae is fatal. Only that Goliath would be strong enough to survive that. Ocean Lad Stroganov isn't some immortal freak, you know. The jury is out. Anyway, we have on good authority that the victim's neck was broken. Now, if we take that as fact, we can reasonably imagine that there remains evidence to affirm it at the scene of the crime. What is it, people? Is it Ocean Lad or is it Seaman? What do you want? What do you want from me? And, like so many people in this game have names with multiple meanings. Naruhodo, I understand. There's nothing lewd in any of the names. Waterman Stroganov. Alright then. Waterman Stroganov. Waterman. What a way to go. Oh no. Could there be? Yes! An examination of the deceased's body will prove the cause of death conclusively. Kazuma died because his neck was broken. In other words, he was probably struck by something or someone. Yes, that's a distinct possibility. As of yet, no weapon has been found, though. Presumably, Darkup didn't silently creep up behind Kazuma and deal him a fatal blow. I suppose it's possible that he had a fall and hit the ground awkwardly. It could have been a terrible act of misfortune that he broke his neck completely by accident. Oh yes, a bad fall could explain it. It's rather hard to believe of Kazuma-sama, though. He wasn't a clumsy man. Well, we need to fix this deduction somehow. Is there anything from the scene that could explain what happened? The mark on the floor, absolutely.
Yes!
Yes! An examination of the mark on the floor will prove the cause of death conclusively. He tripped over the cat and then fell and broke his neck. This particular mark, so prominently visible next to the victim's body, is a deposit of shoe polish. Shoe polish? Indeed. Positively identified by a little analysis device I constructed, which I carry now as a matter of course. I think this is better than Danganronpa personally. Beeswax, tallow, and dye were my results, the undeniable ingredients of shoe polish. And the colour of the polish is a perfect match to the colour of Mr. Asogi's laced leather shoes. Looking at this mark, it's not hard to imagine what happened. For some reason, Mr. Asogi must have caught his foot at that point on the floor and tripped. Oh, please, no. And, by a dreadful turn of misfortune, caught his neck against some immovable object as he fell to the ground. Kazuma was tripping. Hi, Kazuma des. Suffering a fatal blow to the spine, the victim's vertebrae shattered, and in that instant, he lost his life. No! I don't know. I don't know anything about this. Is that really true, Miss Pavlova? And did she then come into his room, saw that he was dead, and then just wrote "cupboard" on the floor, and then sort of fled? What about the evidence left at the scene where Mr. Asogi lost his life? Yes, the facts are as clear as day to me. You did all you could to conceal the incriminating evidence. But now, your involuntary glance betrays the hiding place that you chose. That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that traveling case. I don't believe it. Kazuma-sama merely tripped over and now he's no more? Hello, Genie. There's some pats for you, kitty. You're not going to trip me over, are you? You better not. Can't be true. I refuse to accept it. I know it's hard to believe, but the mark on the floor does seem to suggest that that's what happened. And you also have pats? There you go. But, if we find Aaron with a broken neck, we know that Kitty did it. Has anyone played King's Quest here? In particular, King's Quest 3. Was at the start of the game, there is a cat, and it will follow you around the house, and it will trip you on the stairs and get you killed. Multiple times. That cat is a dick. And if this part of Mr. Sholmes' deduction is right, Miss Pavlova is trying to hide some evidence that would prove it. Here in this cabin, somewhere in the direction that she just cast her eyes. Where, I wonder? Let's have a good look around. Answer must be here somewhere. Okay, let's have a look-see. Tiara. Traveling case. Let's have a look in the basket, shall we? This is a waste paper basket. Perhaps all the first class cabins have them. Legally changing your name to Darker. But Miss Pavlova only started occupying this cabin late last night. Presumably there's not much rubbish in there yet. Oh! What's that? It's a broken piece of glass, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. If it looks familiar, perhaps it's more than your mind simply playing tricks on you. Well, we're able to investigate all these other things, aren't we? God damn it, I've been missing all these things I could investigate. I should have been investigating all of these. Is this where Miss Pavlova hid her friend? That's right. And it wasn't a snake after all. No. It was that little kitten she calls Darker. Not that it's anywhere to be seen now. It seems to have let itself out of the case and gone exploring. I expect it's wrapped itself around someone's head somewhere, trying to make a new friend. Hold on, I'm gonna go let the cat out. Give me a second. Alright. I have returned. I let the murderer out. Nah, Jeannie is the sweetest kitty. She wouldn't hurt anything. Alright, she has killed a few birds in the past, I have to say. We managed to save a few of them, but she has caught a few in the past. Not anymore, she's really old. Honestly, the most dangerous thing that she does is if you're lying sort of flat on your back in bed, she'll sit on top of you. Like, just sit on your chest. She finds that comfy. Either that, or it's scratching their hand to pieces. Point is, where has it got to? Alright, let's have a look at the tiara. Ah! Somebody appears to have dropped 20,000 rubles here. It hasn't been dropped, Naruhodo-san. It's in place. I'm starting to sound like Mr. Sholmes. Stop trying to sound like the great detective. Alright.
Yes.
That's right. You hid the evidence that links you to the victim's death in that waste paper basket. Ah! Here, we have a fragment of some intricate glass object, it would seem. One that has a familiar air, in fact. Mario 64 on the DS, and opened it to find no game. Huh, what happened there? Was it Super Mario DS 64? Yeah, but back then, 20,000 rubles is probably a lot. How much money would 20,000 rubles be a lot in, say, 1890, I wonder? Precisely. We found another piece of broken glass on the floor at Mr. Asogi's cabin. And, as you can see, the two pieces fit together perfectly. Oh no. So, Miss Pavlova, shall we consider what this tells us? Why would it be that part of this glass object, which was evidently broken at the scene of the victim's death, should be found in the waste paper basket in your cabin? Oh, you're well acquainted with this glass bell, are you not? I don't know. In that hushed Russian accent of yours won't save you this time, dear girl. Why? Because we have conclusive evidence linking you to the bell in question. What? Take it away, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes. Evidence linking Miss Pavlova and the little glass bell, that would be this. If you look at this photograph, you can clearly see, hanging from Darka's collar, the very glass bell in question. The truth has caught up with you, Miss Pavlova. The young man who lost his life last night did so after a truly inauspicious fall. And the cause of that fateful stumble? Do keep in mind that 1913 Russia is probably less well off than 1890 Russia. If I had to hazard a guess, because that would be post Russo-Japanese War. And basically the economy's kind of in shambles at that point in time. And that's just before World War I too. So I feel like rubles in 1890 are probably worth more. 270 in... You're referring to US dollars. No data before 1913. Okay. And you're measuring in US dollars anyway. Okay. So what would rubles be? Your absent feline friend, Darka. I couldn't tell anyone. I'm sorry. That's, an embarrassing way to die, unfortunately. The Russo-Japanese War was indeed stupid, and it was also a case of mistaken diplomacy, if I'm not mistaken. Like the countries initially, sort of prior to that, sort of wanted to get along, and then like a series of sort of horrible diplomatic incidents triggered that. And Japan got off to a really good start. But basically, if the war had continued, Russia would have won, because Japan, at the end of the day, like, is still a small nation. with not as much resources as Russia. But Russia sort of tapped out early, essentially. Which in turn sort of led to Japan not really being treated as the winner of that war, interestingly enough. So Japan ended up feeling slighted. Worth more than 500,000 rubles now. Okay, interesting. Yeah, Japan felt slighted because when it came to the peace terms, they felt like they were being treated as the losers of the war because obviously racism and like a minor power like Japan going up against what was considered a great power in Russia. And like essentially that probably helped to start off Japan's ambitions. Like I'm not going to say that it was the sole event. Obviously Japan was essentially a military dictatorship. But yeah. They wanted to prove themselves. They wanted to colonize. They wanted to be the colonizers. So Russo-Japanese War is interesting. Why don't you tell us now, Miss Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. That's the cat. Cat wants to come back in. Give me a second. Yep, and helped the communist revolution to happen since people were fed up with the Tsar. The Tsar wasn't actually very good, so it certainly helped. A whole bunch of like horrible sort of situations helped sort of trigger the communist revolution. Like, I'm not going to say that was one single event at all. It's certainly possible that even without the war, the communist revolution would still have happened. But that's all sort of like what ifs and similar. Alright, give me a second. I'm going to go let the cat in and I'm going to grab myself another drink too. Give me a bit. Alright, I'm back, but the cat decided not to come in. So she decided to go and eat food, and then she's probably going to ask to come in a minute or two. So just be aware of that, I guess. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Daka. So I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. She was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And that is how you acquired the very nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it? Yes, and I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Daka with me. Yes. Modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. Yeah, Snake wouldn't digest the cat. Wouldn't be so active right now. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So, at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again? By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin. Daka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy. I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So, the faint whistling sound Kazuma wrote about in his diary was Miss Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. So not the whistling of gas, although that doesn't discount the idea that there was gas anyway. There could have been gas later, there could have been gas during, and she just didn't notice. It could have doubled up. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then... Oh, it was such a dreadful bang. And afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Kazuma was... He tried to pin his death on me! From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. Hi, Kazuma desu. The SS Buria is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asogi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. This isn't suicide though. This is accident. This is an accident. But what became of the kitten afterwards? In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Daka is nowhere to be seen. Yeah, because Daka escaped again. We know that the animal was in the bag before, right? I must have forgotten to lock my case. We don't say traffic collisions anymore, we say accidents. We don't say cat collisions anymore, we say accidents. And now she's disappeared again. Gracious. That cat is as unsufferably restless as I am. Hot Fuzz! I haven't seen Hot Fuzz in a while. I didn't catch that. I didn't recognize that as a Hot Fuzz quote, admittedly. But that was a good movie. Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died. I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. Apologize to me! I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right. Where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it? Where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship? Oh, they're friends now! Look at him. Although you shouldn't pat snakes on the head, they don't like that. Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Pirozhko. What? I wonder what that name means. Pirozhko. What? What? That snake belongs to you? Da! He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. Sorry. Yeah, that was stupid. Thanks, Ada. I'm surprised. Actually, we probably allowed fuck, so that was probably fine, but it didn't like put there. I guess because put. Yeah, Autumn wants escape from cage when emergency. Yeah, I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board. Ah, we are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands? Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? Now that's racist, Rinosuke. But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in. No venom. Pirozhko does not have venom. He is harmless. Very long, but very gentle. He is adorable, like Granny. Pierogi. Is that, yeah, I was guessing sort of like pierogi. It's venomless. Da. Now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see a big smile. Pierogi is Polish. Okay. And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose? Yet! Like they say, they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Pirozhko eats mouses. Big, fat, round mouses. Oh, so is that what the mouse trap in the passageway out there is for? Da! How else did I catch my friend's favorite food? Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. Those eyes. It refuses to drink milk. It can't hear a whistle. It can't climb up a bell cord. And it's not even venomous. How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role? Sholmes, stop taking it out on the snake. It's not the snake's fault.
It's not my fault. I do not make up stories. My Piroshko is nothing to do with this incident.
So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. Half the passengers are actually breaking the rules with passengers on board. He's not a passenger. He's staff. Miss Pavlova. I understand the difficult situation you found yourself in. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe he's breaking the staff rules as well. Maybe all the staff have pets. And I do sympathize. But please remember this. A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what circumstances, I cannot forgive you. Ooh, she's gonna tear into her. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. Miss Mikotoba knows martial arts. She knows kung fu. It was just a series of unfortunate events. An accident. There was still writing there. Martial arts. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. AK-47 not invented yet. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? When was the Mosin Nagant invented? To be perfectly honest, yes. There's a discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure of it. Just can't quite put my finger on it. Yeah, 1891. So if this is late 19th century, then it does check out. I confess, I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. Oh. I am only present here for a very specific reason. No, we're on a ship heading towards Britain. I think they're stopping in Hong Kong along the way. And also, Hong Kong is a colony of Britain at the moment. So, the truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Oh no, he's done it again! Not again! When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Probably. But again, like, this ship is heading towards Britain. Ultimately. Like right now we're near Shanghai, if I'm remembering right. Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours. Was he not? Yes. Kazuma was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story, I'm sure. Hold on, I'm gonna let the cat in. Oh, and don't worry, Ada. I did make sure to pat the cat. I saw that earlier. And I just wanted to let you know that this has happened. If I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. Alright. I'll see what I can do. Excellent! Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Huh? Are we talking about... because this game doesn't believe in innocent until proven guilty. That's why. And it also doesn't believe in, beyond all reasonable doubt. None of the Ace Attorney games do. So that's why. You're basically guilty, like the defendant is guilty until you find the actual perpetrator. And yeah, Japanese game, they're going to make a parody of Japanese law. And this is 1890s as well, so when Japanese law is in its infancy as well, so it's going to be even worse. What we should ponder first, and also as Rel mentioned before, this would technically be maritime law, and so that would be even crazier, if you can imagine. Is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside? Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it, in fact, no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? Also the gas! The gas! We haven't talked about the gas yet. A man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Wait, let's just take a step back. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me, I'm afraid. Yes. Starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. I haven't saved for a bit. Let's save real quick as well. You don't want to have to lose everything, by the way. Okay. Evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim's death was no accident.
Yes!
The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian, isn't it? Stretch. All right, let's stretch. Give me a second while I do so. Okay. All right. All of you stretch as well, okay? Let's stretch our legs. Okay, there we go. Stretch our backs. Okay. Necks as well. Alright. There we go. Come on, gamers. Stretch. Saving all your CP for end stream. I know some people in chat apparently have enough to do that. No one's actually pressed that button before, however. Sorry. Cables. Alright. Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language. Japanese, in this case. I'd do it as soon as it starts. Oh, you have enough to do it twice. Nice. Impressive, Ada. I can believe that totally. You're around for so many streams, I have to say. So you've totally earned enough. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. That doesn't seem likely. That's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. I don't buy that either. You just think it's easy because it's your native language. How is Russian simple? Everyone in chat going off at her. Drag her. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There is no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. I think English is hard. And English is my only language. Like, props to everyone here who has learned English. Because it is a ridiculous language where all the rules are made up and the points don't matter. That's right, the rules are as worthless as ones made by corporations. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae resulting in instant death. Instant death. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. Yeah, things like that. Things like cultural things can definitely sort of help people learn languages. Having a desire to learn a language, as well as immersing yourself in it and having a reason to learn it, is certainly able to help. Yep, he couldn't have possibly written anything because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asogi's cabin. A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there if what Miss Pavlova told us was true. What? So, Suzato-san has noticed it too then. Putting this message on the floor aside is something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves that this was no accident. In other words... What was it? Imagine it would have been this, right? I was wondering if he was left-handed, but that also wouldn't matter. I was thinking this. Because surely the guard would have heard, right? So let's just quickly double-check things first. Just in case. Yeah, we just got that. Keep out. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the ship's log.
Yes.
What point are you trying to make with that evidence? I'm starting to see how Kazuma's death really happened. I think that you were starting to see nothing of the sort. And that was the evidence to prove it. Oh, so it wasn't the log. If it was no accident, then what we should be looking for is one of two things. Absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of an accident, or the presence of something you wouldn't. Yep, most compendiously put, my dear madame. Ah, I see. Save scum and show everything. Confess your rather languid I see doesn't fill me with confidence, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't worry, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe in you. Well, more than Mr. Sholmes does, anyway. Okay. Clear contradiction. Evidence is right there in Kazuma's cabin. It's undeniable. Putting the message aside... I just show that again? Right! Because she entered the room, right? Because the bell... Like, how did she retrieve it?
Yes.
This broken piece of glass next to the mark on the floor. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know all about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. One might call it a fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened, Then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Yes. Remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in the waste paper basket. Would you care to explain that, Miss Pavlova? Oh, no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. Generally we find out motive right at the end. That's when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin. There was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Yeah! Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's.
You are wasting time. Someone else was there? Duh! Of course! We know this!
What are you talking about?
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And only other person in cabin when young student died was you.
Yes!
It's true. I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message. Snake is the reason he had a darker toned patch of skin on his face. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message. To be precise about the details. Would you mind? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor, for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. We're getting on that. Yes, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would barely have cast any light onto the floor there. Little wonder then that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? Water boy Stroganov.
Nina is a woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills, and she went away to join the ballet company. But before, she was dancer on this ship, a member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal.
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
Well, this is all most interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You are great detective. You should know. Look truth in eye. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside.
Also Russian saying.
Da, good to know. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Niet, it's impossible.
He's right. But wait. I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around door latches so they can open and close them from the outside.
Thread? Are you stupid? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. I mean, you've already pointed this out. Why would you bring it up now? Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight. No threads or needles or magnets would have been used. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so...
Don't pin this on me! Cesaro-san, how could you shift it onto me like that?
So, Waterboy Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily.
What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door
Without laying a finger on it.
and in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before.
Most likely.
I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside. One way does spring to mind, yes. Do you really know what Mr. Sholmes means, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes. And so should you. Because we've seen it happen. Indeed we have. So, would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method that was used to slide the cabin door bolt across from the outside.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel after all.
You know, this would cause a huge problem. Like if someone's not occupying these doors when this goes on, like you'd have to have a key of some sort in order to open these doors, but clearly they don't if they kicked the other door down. Because every time the ship stops, it's going to lock every single door. I found a horrible flaw on this vessel.
When the engines are thrown in reverse, a violent jolt goes across the ship. Any small objects that aren't fastened down are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia acting on the objects.
Made of premium stylium.
It could just be emergency stops. Even if it's just emergency stops, that's still certainly a problem. Because again, you're going to have to break down the doors in order to open them if nobody happens to be occupying them at the time. Is there nothing Suzaru-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. Ah! It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Shout if you need assistance! Oh, that sounds like the inspector. Oh yes! That's it! When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of inertia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asogi was killed, so Beef Boy over there must have been involved in this, because he chose to not update the logs about this. The SS Buria made another emergency stop? When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had toppled over, and all the ornaments. And that could be why everyone's head is sore. It's not gas. Everyone bumped their head in their sleep. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. Oh yes, I remember that. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then, when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. Yep, massive bonking accident. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asogi's cabin. Our Waterboy Stroganov hasn't mentioned anything about head pain, I don't think. Oh my. Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Pavlova?
Are you out of your mind? You say Bulia made an emergency stop?
It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened?
Dummy thick skull.
Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room? Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh yes, of course. There was a notice, wasn't there? Telling you only to press the button in times of emergency. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot afford to rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Hence, the placement of a number of buttons around the vessel to allow any crewman to raise the alarm. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity.
Wait, it was you?
When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interests of safety. He pushed that button earlier. That's great. Great to hear, Marshall. Glad your internet's back. The emergency alarm bells ring, and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. But if the whole crew is in on it, and covering for someone that they are loyal to, because she used to be a member of the crew, Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. Sounds almost proud of himself. Anyway, we'll see what's happening. We'll see what's happening, okay?
How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now.
Now, I'm sure all that can wait until later. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learned a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on the cabin doors slide shut. So, what we must now consider. Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not?
You are idiots! Bulia is a huge ship with many passengers. If we make emergency stop even in middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere.
What are your thoughts, Mr. Naruhodo? Maybe that was gas. Maybe they did gas the ship so that people wouldn't wake up when they do an emergency stop. It's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruhodo? Fascinating. Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night? The ship's log. Waterboy Stroganov. It's your duty to patrol the first class area of the ship. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
Why? And the ship's log here. That would be where you record the details of your duties?
What are you doing with that? That is mine!
You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But, as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later.
I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always.
The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances, you write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log?
That is... because nothing happened.
If nothing happened, you would normally write "nothing to report," wouldn't you? Yeah, but he didn't. He screwed up. Indeed so. Which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Could be he forgot. People forget things. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking rubbish!
If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh? Why? Well, it's because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Ah! Oh, yes. I have had a headache, you're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up today. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today too. There's nothing lewd about throbbing. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. Can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yes. Sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Kazama looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. So, you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it. Maybe it wasn't gas, maybe it was the food, and Kazama doesn't eat chicken. So he was awake at the time, whenever they were doing whatever it was that they were doing. Yes, in fact, I had all of that. Kazama wasn't fond of chicken. Oh, really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all? That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No. Really? Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo? Of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, Waterboy. They have to have a lot. It's a ship that stays at sea for months. yeah, Oriental Express. Everyone's a perpetrator. I still need to read that, to be honest. Sorry for spoilers for people, I guess. I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. And were that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals for aiding and abetting a renegade. Please, no more. I will tell everything. Renegade's a pretty great word, I have to say. I cannot make problems like this for everyone anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes, so when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me. Comrade Waterboy? We all agreed to help. Everyone together. She threw away everything of fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel. Don't believe it. You are right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. We could not make old drug, how do you say, dissolve? Talk about heavy seasoning. At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by a comrade on shore with small fishing boat. While all the passengers on the SS Buria slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So, if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who disliked chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Miss Pavlova. Right, because they were very hesitant to say when this passenger came on board. And it seemed like, how could she have come on board because we weren't docked at the time? And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's cabin door. But how does that make sense? Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in that case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meals of chicken in their cabins. After which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Yes! The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted anyway. And so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find their door locked in the morning. And also they sort of blanked out. They would be a little bit confused anyway. They wouldn't have remembered anything. They just assumed that it was locked. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours of the morning. You have talked long time and said many things. What is point? The point is what I said earlier. Yeah, quite interesting, Hell. I do agree. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But I don't know about any of this. I am just a little girl. You like to speak with your long English words and explain your clever ideas. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes. A laudable trait? What? I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind. What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No, you must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction. What are you talking about? I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. Are we now? Well, I think we should leave on that cliffhanger for the night. For it is that time, as always, where it's time for us to wrap up the stream. It is midnight, and this is when we try to wrap things up. And they're communicating in English, I imagine, to understand each other. When they're using honorifics like San, they're speaking English. They're speaking Japanese. When they're using Mr. or Miss, they're using English. But yeah, I'll be wrapping up there for the night. I'll leave it on a cliffhanger for everyone. It's 3 p.m. for you, but it's midnight for me. And don't worry, we'll be playing again on Friday, okay? And I do hope that people will be able to tune in then, okay? And if not, there will be VODs available. Just do check my stream. They stay up for about a month, I believe. So you'll be able to check that way, okay? Now, we are going to go and raid someone who is playing Back 4 Blood, which is a game I'm interested in checking out, which is like a spiritual sequel to Left 4 Dead. 2 months. Okay. Partially interested, but also that's effort, I guess. Yeah, it's basically Left 4 Dead 3. So I'm interested in sort of checking that out. So, we're going to go raid Katsuki D, who is playing that now. And tomorrow, we're going to be starting on Library of Ruiner, which is the sequel to Lobotomy Corporation. And I've heard that that's even better. That's going to be a midday stream, so it's going to be at 1 p.m. my time. You can help upload them if I want. Downloaded all Sierra VODs. I could... Maybe. We'll talk about it, I guess. We'll see if it'll be worthwhile. But yeah, we'll be ending the stream now. So, thank you very much. And I hope to see you all next time, alright? See ya!